Share the screen. So this is why is this happening to me again? And what you can do about it with Michael Rice, and he'll join us shortly. And here he is. Welcome, Michael. Are you muted?
Like to be here. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Awesome. Ready to rock and roll.
Yes. I'm just going to make you co-host just in case, but hopefully we won't get any Zoom trolls like we did last time. I'll make you co-host just in case.
Just hold the space for them if they come to
Yes.
get what they need to get.
So all these sessions are recorded and shared publicly to support others in these teachings of why is this happening to me again. I'll just run through this bit. To find all Hear My Voice Book Club events, you can find them on Meetup. There's a Facebook group, it's on Instagram. My email is Hear My Voice Book Club if there's any questions. This is what's on this week. So tomorrow we've got Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway at the 5 AM club. What else we got left? Children's meditation tomorrow at 7 PM. That's a different Zoom link than this one. Saturday and Sunday cardio workout. And then that's at 6 AM. Sunday at 9 AM is Joe Dispenza's meditation. We've got a singles night next week. At 8 PM for those that are single. In-person events next week is Liverpool. We had our Manchester one yesterday, which was awesome. And our monthly book club is The Wisdom of the Shaman by Don Josh Rouge on the 2nd of March. And we've got Call in the One starting on the 5th of March. If you want details for the Call in the One, please message me because I'm going to be sending messages out this week to because I can only have 20 people on this group. And I'm off for spiritual maintenance on Sunday the 19th, and I will return with Sean T's cardio workout on Sunday the 26th of February and Joe Dispenza's meditation on that day. I'm taking a full week off.
Good for you.
Yes, good for you. You deserve it.
Thanks for modeling taking care of yourself.
Yes. And I've cancelled everything that I had booked in. So it is a full week of just me and no children.
Wow.
Great.
Yeah.
Fill your cup.
Yes.
Mm.
We've got Connecting to the Now, Hear My Voice Book Club weekend away. It's on the 8th to the 10th of April. I hasn't got it on the screen, but it's between the 8th and 10th of April. 2 nights stay. You can either stay for 1 night, 2 nights, or just do a day. But that's going to be in Stockport near Manchester. And there's also only 20 places for that event as well. We've got WhatsApp group, keep your people connected. We've got the 5 AM social information one, Joe Dispenza's and Call in the One. And as most of you know, Hear My Voice Book Club runs off donations, but I ask for any donations that are going to be given today to go directly to Michael to support him in these teachings and the time that he gives to this group as well. I'll put all the information for this in the chat as well shortly. We're just going to do a rampage of appreciation just to raise our energy to appreciation. So it'll only be a quick breakout room. So it'll just be for a few minutes for those that want to share appreciation and raise your vibrations. So there you go. Some of you popped up, but we've got about 60 seconds before everyone comes back. So it sounds like you've been busy, Michael.
Oh, yes, we've been busy.
Yeah.
We're about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way through shoveling about 40,000 pounds of soil that we have delivered a couple of days ago.
Wow.
So I'm definitely appreciating that that's almost done, and our native species garden is just about ready to plant.
So you're going to be doing a lot of planting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that big an area. We're eliminating an area of about 25 feet by 100 feet of our lawn and turning it literally into a registered national park. There's a gentleman named Talamy here in the States that's a university professor, and he is really trying to get people to recognize that insects are almost on the verge of collapse globally, because so many indigenous plants have been destroyed. And if those insects go, especially the pollinators, then the food supply collapses and everybody's in a lot of trouble. So we decided to eradicate a piece of our lawn here. And this is the invitation this university professor is doing, is we've set up and register yourself as a private national park and start to create something that feeds pollinators and keeps the world's food supply going. Because if those insects go, and you know, it's like within the last year, there's been over 60% of insects have disappeared from the face of the earth, and we're heading for trouble. So just another little project to do.
I think that's everyone back. Yeah. So we're just going to finish up with the introduction part, where we just do some shoulder rolls, just to loosen up your shoulders and get yourselves ready for the session. If you've got any tension from the day, you're just going to release all that before we open your mind, ready for Michael. Just use comfortable sitting position, take a nice deep breath in, draw up your shoulders, exhale, nice deep breath in, and exhale. Now, some of you know I like you to give your bodies a good shake out. So we're just going to give it a good shake. Get your body moving in any way you want to move it, just getting it moving. You might want to stand up and give it a good shake. So we've got a bit of music.
Dance, dance, dance.
Yeah. I doesn't want to pull. Just escape that a minute. There we go. So give your bodies a good shake out, get it moving. Sounds up. There we go. We've been doing Qigong today, so we've been doing a lot of shaking out old energy today.
Cool.
Have you been doing Qigong, Yinka?
Yeah.
Where?
Oh, at home I do it with people come over to my house. I do it at my house.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah.
So welcome, everybody.
Yes, welcome. We're just going to hold a moment just to remember to breathe. Throughout this session, you probably will, triggers may come up, and is to remember to breathe. So holding your breath is exactly how you acquire a past about something and carry it with you. Holding your breath attaches the pain of an experience to a reality in your mind. So remember to breathe. I'm just going to hand it over to Michael to introduce himself. And then,
Oh, I think you should introduce me.
yes. So, as a lot of you know, Michael, oh, sorry, let me just put, yeah, 1 second, everybody, unfortunately.
Go for it. Got a visitor?
Yeah, we've got visitors. Just mute everyone a minute. Just 1 second. You should be able to unmute yourself, Michael. Yeah. Can I just ask the number of 44738 to put the cameras on a moment, just to check who you are? I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Unmute. Yeah, it's
Oh,
sorry.
okay. I'm just making sure you know one of the Zoom trolls, because I've gone now. Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry, it's just it's a new computer. I stop Zoom. I didn't put my name, so I was into it. I don't know how. Sorry.
That's all right. That's fine. I was just checking to make sure.
Yeah, no. It's just it's
Yeah,
Maria being a couple of times.
you can mute yourself now if you want to. Yeah.
Sorry.
I'll just double check. Yeah, I think they all look like they've gone now. Oh, KB Jones, can you put your camera on, please, a moment?
Make sure everybody's a human.
Yes. Can you introduce yourself, please? That's everyone. Recognize everybody else. Basically, yeah. Yes, and it will go. Yes, it will go on the channels Danny's just asked. So, Michael Rice is the author of Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And I discovered Michael. I can't even remember how long ago it is. Has it been a year?
It's pretty close to a year, I think. Yes.
And I do not to this day know how I discovered his book.
Especially since it's been out of print for 10 years when she discovered it.
Yeah. And as soon as I read it, I knew I had to do it for the book club. But I never expected, and Michael is the first author that I've ever contacted just to say that I was going to do his book. And he said he'd come along, and it's been a year ever since, coming twice a month to the book club and sharing these teachings. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey.
The rest is history.
Yeah. So we're going
to and the book is out of print, as I say.
Mm-hmm.
You can usually find it used on Amazon or eBay, but you can also, there's a link in the notes that Yinka sends out. You can download a free copy of it from my website. So we're looking at republishing at this point, and but it hasn't been done as yet.
I'm looking forward to you republishing it. Quite a few people in the group have got it from eBay and
cool.
Amazon as well.
Good.
So I'm just going to put all the stuff to find. second, sorry.
So thank you for finding that van in proofreading the new worksheet. And we simplified it somewhat and added another significant piece to the puzzle. So that's the worksheet we'll do today. And thank you for getting that into a PDF or into a PowerPoint.
And what I will do as well, I'll record it without any session, where I'll just read out so people that can just watch the PowerPoint of doing the worksheet.
Cool.
I'm just going to put all the
Awesome.
information in the chat if anybody wants to find Michael's content. And Magda has kindly offered to do a worksheet tonight for us as well.
Awesome. Welcome. Glad you're here.
See where she is. I'm going to make you a co-host as well, Magda, so then you can unmute as and when, just in case anybody else, we get any other visitors. There you go, Magda, you can unmute.
Thank you very much. To be honest, I don't actually know what does it mean, but I will go for it.
There you go.
Now that's courage.
Yes.
Or stupidity.
We'll go with courage.
Yeah. Let's join in the courage aspect of it. We'll let that other thought. We'll forgive that other thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go with that then.
Yeah.
Where are you from, Magda?
I'm from Romania, but I'm living and working in UK.
Oh, wonderful. Well, nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to
Turn
meet
your
you too.
camera on if you'd like, and then we'd be able to see you as well.
I don't feel quite comfortable with that.
Okay.
So yeah, if you can please let me know what do I need to do, and I will happily do it.
So you will need pens and paper.
Okay.
Yeah. And if other people want to join in as well, you can join in and go through the worksheet as well, because you'll see it on the screen. So we'll go through each piece at a time. So everybody will be able to do it. Just Magda will be the focus of the worksheet.
Do you have a link you can put in that if people want to download the worksheet and print it off?
Yeah, that's in there as well. So
if you click the link, you can go ahead and there's a totally new version of the reality management worksheet that we're going to do tonight. So if you want to hit that link and print it off or have it on your screen, then it'll be there for you. It's actually an edited version. I actually had a physician here just about 30 miles from where we live who asked me if I would work with a group he was bringing together for a weekend workshop. And we only had an hour and a half, and to present the other worksheet in an hour and a half is pretty much impossible. So I pared it down. We ended up taking 2 hours. Hopefully we'll get that video from him and we'll have that available as well. But the abbreviated process that we've put into this worksheet takes out some of the complexities of the other worksheet, so it makes it a little simpler. And it adds one major new step in number 5. And you'll see there's number 3. We didn't have to used to have a step 3B. So we've added another level of looking at goals in regard to the forgiveness process. So we'll explain that as the session unfolds.
Yeah. So don't worry
so
about.
The idea, Magda.
Go on,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
No, go on, Michael.
I was just going to say, Magda, what you volunteered for is what we're going to do is a worksheet. So if you've got an issue in your life around which you'd like to do a forgiveness process, we'll walk you through it. And so if there's something in your life that you're working with that's a challenge that you'd like to do a worksheet on, then you could you could pick that out. And then just be aware, that this will be something that's publicly available. We'll be using it. It'll be on our YouTube channel, be on Yinka's YouTube channel. So the idea is to help people to refine their understanding of the forgiveness process. And so we'll be making it available. So if that's comfortable for you, then let's go for it. And what we're looking to do with this work, with what we're doing, is to create a record that, 2 years, 10 years, 10,000 years from now, people would be able to digitally access and go, oh, that's how forgiveness works. So that's what we're looking to is to create a record that becomes available to people so that anywhere on the planet, whenever they choose to tap into the forgiveness process has support and understanding on how it works. So,
Okay. Thank you.
all right.
That's it.
So the sheet that Yinka has up on the screen, the process of forgiveness we call reality management. And there's some definitions. My reality, we got an extra N in there, a perceptual output constructed by my mind. And the wake-up sheet, it's another name for the reality management process, is a wake-up sheet or forgiveness sheet. Change your mind, change your life. And what we're looking at is the how-to of first century Aramaic forgiveness. In this culture, most of our global cultures today, forgiveness is presented as a Greek idea where I'm blaming you. You're the problem in my life. I'm upset because of something you did. And since I'm upset because of something you did, I'll forgive you. I'll let you off the hook for what you did that caused all this pain inside of me. Which, of course, if I let you off the hook for the pain that's happening inside of me, I've done nothing whatsoever to change the pain that's happening inside of me. And if I never learn to change the pain that's happening inside me, then I get to live the title of the book over here on the right-hand side. Why is this happening to me again? And so in the first century Aramaic language, you would never be invited to forgive somebody else. In fact, never forgive anybody for anything, including yourself, but forgive continuously. And recognize that forgiveness is a tool. If you take a look at the bottom of the sheet here, forgiveness is the tool for waking up from and changing my reality. So forgiveness is the tool with which I go inside myself. I collapse the things in my mind that are false, and I get to look at what's under the surface and change whatever erratic energy there is, whatever pain energy there is in me, remove it and step forward in my healing process. So in essence, that's the process of forgiveness. So it's a tool changing my reality. The premise of the worksheet, and each time you do a worksheet, we suggest you read this because, if you look at this first message, my essential nature, my human life, my very being is love. And if you ever forget that, we suggest just hold a newborn, tap into that newborn energy. That's not exactly the message that most of the world has delivered to most of us, that our essential nature is love. We've been told all kinds of crazy things. We've had all kinds of thought disorders implanted in our minds. And it's those thought disorders that cause our pain, our turmoil, our struggle, our strain, and our pain, our trauma, pardon me. So the goal of this internal forgiveness wake-up sheet is to empower me to remove fear and or hostility and return me to the direct experience of love 24/7, 365. So that's the specific purpose of this worksheet. And so in number 1A, you want to take a look at and make a proclamation about who you are every time you do a worksheet. And so number 1A, you put your name in that first blank. So if I'm doing the worksheet, it'd be Michael. Magda, for you, it would be I, Magda, who am, and there's actually supposed to be a line there, who am love. You can see that heart circling above. Am experiencing. And so I want to make sure every time I start this process, I affirm the truth of who I am as love. And then in 1B, having identified yourself as love, then you want to identify your emotions around whatever you're going to do this particular worksheet on. And you'll note that you're instructed here to use a separate worksheet for each emotion. So let's say a situation happens and I say, well, I've got anger about that, I've got fear about that, and there's a lot of sadness. I want to do 3 different worksheets because each of those feelings, or pardon me, each of those emotions, sensations in our structure are reflections of different qualities of energy that I want to remove from my structure. So if I live in denial, and our definition in this work of denial is Whenever I think or speak as though something outside of me is the cause of what's happening inside of me, then I'm in denial. So what happens when I go into denial is I displace my experience of myself as my essence love, and my mind tells me that my emotions are caused by this person outside of me. They made me mad, they made me sad, they hurt me, they frustrated me, whatever. And that's always a lie that the mind tells us. The idea of forgiveness is to collapse our lies and get to a direct experience of the truth. So what are you feeling there, Magda? What would you fill that in with number 1B?
I identify a low self-esteem and a low self-confidence.
Okay, so low self-esteem and low self-confidence would be thoughts, not emotions. So when you think in terms, let's just pick which one would be most important at this moment, the self-esteem or the confidence?
Confidence.
Okay, so when you experience yourself believing that you or experiencing that you don't have confidence, what emotion goes along with that? You want to
Fear,
get clear. What are thoughts? Okay, fear. Good. So you want to
doubt.
make it be clear that the emotions are different than the thoughts. And when I get clear on that, a lot of things start to move into place. So your emotion, will do this one on fear. Doubt, again, would be a separate worksheet. So when I do a worksheet, I've always got a stack of at least a dozen sheets in my hand. And so if I'm, let's say, as you are right now, Magda, I'm at number 1B and I'm looking at it, I'm going, yeah, well, I've got fear. So I'm going to do this worksheet on fear, but I've got some doubt too. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a second worksheet and I'm going to go to 1B and I'm going to put doubt in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to leave that worksheet and go back to my original one. My experience over the years when I do this is that usually when I complete a single worksheet, I will have uncovered at least 3, maybe 4 or 5 other worksheets that I need to do around this issue.
Okay.
So I'd start a second one on doubt and then come back to this one.
Okay.
And on the right-hand side of the worksheet, you'll notice there's a place to draw your emotions. Sometimes our feelings, our emotions come from a pre-verbal state. And it's hard to put them into words. So oftentimes just a simple line drawing can be very useful. So, what would fear look like for you if you were to represent that as a line drawing? And so you want to draw that emotion or that feeling. And then in that same box, there's a little reminder. If I'm in pain, my thinking is in error. Pain is a signal, I would offer, that there's an energy inside of us that doesn't belong. Pain is attempting to communicate something to us that we're not aware of. So when I recognize, oh, I'm in pain, then somewhere there's an error in me, then instead of looking for somebody to blame, I'm going to start looking for the root of my error and clean that up rather than be focused in the outer world. Because when we're focused in trying to change an internal dynamic with an external action, we never get to change the internal dynamic with that. And so that leads to, again, the title of my book, the Why Is This Happening to Me Again experience. And then you'll notice that where it says my denial at the end of number 1B, we're stepping into a new sentence, my denial, and there's a set of brackets there for you to put your own initials in to remind you that this worksheet is really about you. So my denial, so I'd put, MR in there, displaces my experience of myself as my essence love, And my mind tells me that my emotions are caused by my trigger. Number 1C. So who is, or who are you focused on at this moment? Who is the focus of your attention around this whole experience that you're working on now? So you've got some fear around self-confidence. Is it yourself that you're focused on here? Is there someone else that has brought this up for you?
No, it's myself.
Okay, so then in that blank, you'd put your own name. And if you were to outline what the story is, what's the construct of your mind telling you about yourself and confidence here? What would that story be?
Gosh, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough.
Not good enough. Okay.
Feel inferior for some reason. I think everything starts from childhood because when I was a kid, my parents actually didn't praise me, didn't encourage me, didn't, you know, it's not like I'm 36, so I'm not that old either, but
Right.
you couldn't compare the parenthood
Okay.
from 36 years ago with these days. Plus, you know, I'm coming from Romania where society and culture is a bit different. So
Right.
I'm
So-
not blaming them. You know, they've done the best which they could at that time, at that moment. But I think it's coming from there.
Right. So what I would do now, you just uncovered, I would offer another worksheet to do. And so I would take the second sheet, and in that number 1C, that first blank, I would put my parents. And what's the situation? Just briefly, you want to start that worksheet. I put my parents, and they didn't praise me. They didn't support me. So that would be the start of another worksheet. This is what we call a Hydra worksheet. If you remember, in Greek mythology, they had a creature that was called the Hydra. And if you cut her head off, another dozen heads grew out of the stump of her neck. And that's kind of like the forgiveness process. Oftentimes, when we start removing the blocks of one particular construct of the mind, we start to see a lot of things that are underneath it. So I would suggest you start a third worksheet where the topic, number 1C, is parents, and they didn't praise me. They weren't there for me.
Okay.
Okay. And notice what's happening with your breath. You want to make sure to keep breathing. And I'll just we'll take a second out, and we'll ask everybody to do a little exercise here. I'm going to invite everyone, if you would please, to close your eyes, and we're going to ask you to run through a series of feelings. And we're going to start out and ask you to let yourself feel fear. And as you allow yourself to feel fear, notice where in your physiology you're feeling that fear. Notice what's happening with your breath. Allow yourself to breathe. And shift into, or do whatever it takes for you to connect to love, and bring love in with your breath to that place in your physiology where you're feeling fear. Just breathe into it and bring that presence of love into that space. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is, for a moment, allow yourself to feel sadness. And notice where in your physiology you're feeling that sadness. Take a breath, tap into the presence of love, and with your breath, bring love into that place where there is sadness. Just kind of let it go. And then for a moment, allow yourself to feel anger. Once again, notice where in your physiology you're feeling the anger. Take a breath, let it go, tap into the presence of love and bring love into the space of that anger. And now I'm going to ask you to go back to the moment where you held a newborn baby. And if you've never held a newborn, just imagine holding a newborn. And tap into the essence of that newborn. That pure presence of love. And breathe and bring that fully into experience in your physiology. And then come back to this moment. Now, this is going to be kind of rhetorical. We don't have the space for everybody to be answering the question, but just what did you do in order to move from fear, sadness, to anger, to love? What did you do in order to change what you were feeling?
If people want to put it in the chat, I will read it out.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So what specifically did you do to go from sadness to fear, to anger, to love? And I'll just share that having asked that question of tens of thousands of people all over the globe over the last half century, everybody finally comes to the conclusion that what they did to change what they were feeling is they had to change what they were thinking. Now, our cultures have trained us in the lie that something out there makes us feel. But nothing out there can make us feel. Something out there can resonate thoughts in us, and those thoughts will change what we feel, but it is not the event in the world that changes your thoughts or your feelings. It's your mind that changes your thoughts and therefore your feelings. You want to go ahead and read through a few of those, Inka?
Yeah, someone's put, I find it very difficult to change this.
Okay. So how about for the person who's finding it difficult to change, how about joining me for a moment? Close your eyes. And what I'm going to share is I'm going to share one of the most profound experiences in my life of shifting my mind into the presence of love. And I'm going to ask you to imagine being with me as that happens. So it's the afternoon of May the 22nd, 1981. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon. We're about 50 minutes into, we're at home. We're about 50 minutes into labor with my wife, and my daughter's head is starting to be born into my hands. As her head delivers and she's being born, she opens her eyes. Now we're told in this culture that, a baby can't focus their eyes till they're, several days old. Not true, at least not with my daughter, because my daughter laser focused and locked into my eyes as I'm looking at her, delivering her, or pardon me, I should more accurately say catching her. My wife is delivering her, I'm catching her. She looks into my eyes and she grins at me. And she sent me into a dimension and an experience of love that I have not been able to match since. Can you tap into that? And does that shift anything for you? It was such a profound experience for me, I'll offer, that I actually had a classroom in my home. I lived in Atlanta, Georgia. And I had a classroom in my home. It was a Friday afternoon. And we had people coming from as far away as Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and that was before cell phones. And I had no way to contact people driving in from all over the country to say, hey, we just had a baby. We're not doing this workshop this weekend. So at 7 o'clock, my daughter was born at 4:40. And at 7 o'clock, with her in my arm, I went to the door and greeted people as I welcomed them. And we said, no. She wasn't just born at 4:40 this afternoon and you're here. Yeah, she was. I went down, when everybody arrived, went down into the classroom to teach, and I could not think a thought. There was such a powerful, direct experience of full-blown love that the only way I've been able to describe it, it was like my brain and my mouth were buttered. I could not think anything. It was just the teaching that I did that night was just direct transmission. And my offering is that's where we're designed to live. Does participating in that experience with you shift anything for you?
Not replied yet. Oh, yes, it made me smile.
Good, cool. So you're welcome to use that one anytime you like. I mean, when I'm in a crisis situation, when things are coming up for me, of course I breathe, but one of the main things I do is I tap into that moment where that presence of love, of her arrival into the world was so profound that it shifted me in a way that I haven't been the same since. So for everyone else, if you notice that to feel fear, you had to think something. To feel sadness, you thought something different. To feel anger, you thought something else. And then to go to the experience of love, you had a thought that was different again. What does that make those feelings? I'd offer that, or those emotions. What are they? They're reflections of thoughts. And so this next step in the worksheet is to recognize the truth is only my thoughts cause my upset, my emotional upset. And when you realize that, you want to make sure you breathe. You want to keep your breath connected. And then once again, you'd use a separate worksheet for each thought. But Magda, at this point, we want to tap into that emotion that you're working on. And the thoughts I use to cause that feeling, that emotion. So what thought, the specific emotion that you're working on with this worksheet, what's the thought that you think in order to experience that emotion?
Not good enough.
Not good enough, okay. Okay, so you'd mark that in number 1D. And then, are there punishment thoughts? In number 1E, if you're looking at self here, this worksheet's on yourself as the object of attention. And, this worksheet ultimately can be done on any person, place, thing, or event, past, present, future, living, or dead, of course, including yourself. So is there any punishment toward yourself here when you're having this experience of not being good enough?
More like, I want to be mean, let's say, with myself.
Okay.
And I'm not
So
talking
kind of
that.
self-abuse?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're here to support you shifting that one. And recognizing the only thing you deserve is to experience yourself as love and to carry out behaviors toward yourself that are based in love. So our support will be supporting you and assisting you in forgiving any form of mean energy that you could hold toward yourself. And of course, if you were doing the worksheet on another person, which in this case we're not, then you'd look at the punishment you had for that person and then the punishment for self, but we'll only do the one piece of it now. So number 2, I'm willing to process all disease as I go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing. Now, in this work, we define processing as the ability to keep love conscious, active, and present when something less than love comes up in you. If something like meanness comes up in you and love is present, the instant that meanness comes into the presence of love, it dissolves. The instant that sadness, hate, rage, guilt comes into the presence of active love, it dissolves. And so our definition of processing is the ability to hold love conscious, active, and present when something less than love comes up. And then to stand in willingness. You know, when we're in resistance, we tend to be tight, we tend to be locked down, and energy doesn't move very well. When I go into willingness, I open. My field moves out of resistance. Actually, it's interesting. In the ancient Aramaic language, the word Satan is not a dude with a red suit, a tail, and a pitchfork. The word Satan means the resistor, one who misleads. When we go into resistance and we hold on to destructive mind energy, well, first of all, most people will refuse to be responsible, and then they'll tell the story about how it's somebody else's fault. So what I want to do is step into willingness, and I'm willing to embrace whatever's in here on the physical, mental, and emotional levels. And when you recognize, and one of the foundations of this work is Albert Einstein, where he says, on such things as matter, we have been all wrong. What we have heretofore called matter is energy, energy whose vibrations have been so lowered as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter. So Einstein says, we do not live in a material world. We live in an energetic world. And relative to the integrated state of this energy system that to the eye looks like a body, actually to the brain, it looks like a body, but really if we could see what it really is, it's this whirring mass of electrons, protons, neutrons, and light. It's energy. And relative to this energy system, there are energies that build it up, integrative energy, and energies that tear it down, disintegrative energies. When you put an energy into the field, whether it's a disintegrative or an integrative energy, it will reflect as symptoms. Now, the average person in this culture, when they experience some sort of symptomatic pain or trauma, the first thing they do is work to find a way to get rid of it, to stop from feeling it. You know, give me a fifth of scotch. Let me have a sugar cookie. Let me go into a fit of rage. Let me go get busy. I forgot I needed to vacuum the house and do the dishes and wash the car and scrub the driveway and rake the lawn. Oh, I have to keep, that's the most common drug there is. So what we're inviting you to do, rather than any of those things, if you're in the habit of avoiding, is to just be with yourself in willingness, and I'm willing to go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing. So what do those symptoms look like? On a physical level, when you reverse the energy, obviously if something went in and created symptoms, the reflection of that energy going into the structure showed up as symptoms. On the way back out, that same energy would symptomatically be the same, wouldn't it, logically? So on a physical level, healing looks like any kind of physical symptom you've ever had and low energy. On a mental level, it looks like any kind of negative thought you've ever had and confusion. On an emotional level, it looks like any kind of negative feeling you've ever had and depression. That's what healing looks like. So healing is not Dr. Feelgood. That's why most people would rather just pop a pill. They would rather go for treatment than for healing. In fact, some treatment modalities call themselves healing methods. But treatment and healing are two different things. Treatment, by and large, is about finding a way to get around the symptoms. Healing is about standing as a space of love, being able to embrace the symptoms, to keep breathing and to keep that energy moving through and out of your structure that maybe before you shut down with a fifth of scotch and hid it from yourself. On a mental level, healing looks like any kind of negative thought you've ever had and confusion. On an emotional level, healing looks like any kind of negative feeling you've ever had and depression. That's what healing looks like. So I'm willing to embrace those energies and go through the symptoms of healing. Does that fit for you, Magda? Are you ready for that?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3. 2 parts to number 3. A, my desire, that is the constructive result, the exact goal that drives and uncovers my pain. And we'll explain this by saying there's some interesting Harvard research that says that in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells are firing, the maximum amount of data that goes into conscious awareness is 9 bits. So 10,000 units of electrical activity can be measured happening in the brain. And the max amount of data that goes into building the construct called perception is 9 bits. Little tiny piece of information. And as you recognize that, then obviously, if there are 10,000 bits of data firing off and only 9 bits go into perceptual awareness, something must control that process. Something must determine which 9 bits of data the mind is going to use. I would offer it's your goals. And you will notice, unless you're, just a generally miserable person, you'll notice that you're never upset with anyone as long as they're fulfilling all the goals you hold for them, including yourself. What does that mean? Goals are the key way into healing our unconscious dynamics. Goals are the key to forgiveness. Forgiveness, remember up above, we defined it. Forgiveness is not letting somebody else off the hook because this condition is moving in me. Forgiveness is how I remove this condition from my mind. So what's the specific way I want it to be, the constructive result? If I were to look at the ideal situation in what I've described in number 1, what would I want that situation to look like? So Magda, for you, in this situation you're working on, what would be the goal? If you had your way, what would number 1 look like?
I feel that the most part which is actually suffering from here is my professional. I'm occupying a leadership position, and sometimes
Right.
when you do not have self-confidence, I don't know how obvious this is. I don't know how, this is something
Makes
which
perfect sense.
I am aware of it. However, I do not know how others are percepting me. But definitely, I would like to be able to speak without without feeling that I might get judged or embarrassed.
Okay. So I'd make note of that judgment, embarrassment. There are 2 other worksheets to do around this issue. This is a major core issue you're working on here. So congratulations for your willingness. But notice that if you read, and what I asked you to do was the constructive result, and notice that you spoke about what you didn't want. And that's what we've been trained to do in our culture, is to focus on what we don't want. In order to successfully utilize this forgiveness process, You have to move in the direction of training your mind to think about what you do want. So in professional situations, if you were to say your goal for yourself in professional situations, if you were going to express it, what would it be? Rather than I don't want to be this and that, what would it be?
Confident.
Yeah. I want to have full confidence and knowledge that I'm on track and I'm rocking. That would be your goal. And breathe as you write that down. It's really important, and I share this for everybody's sake, it's really important each time you do a worksheet to look for the constructive outcome that you want. If you're looking at what you don't want, the forgiveness process won't work for you. You want to look at and be really clear about what is it that you want here. And then there's always a second level goal. This is a new piece we put into. This is from a different worksheet that we've used previously, but decided to integrate it into this one. So there's always a secondary goal. And that secondary goal is so that I can. So I want to always feel confident when I'm in my professional role so that I can
do my job properly.
be fully competent.
If I will be fully confident, yeah,
Okay, so that I can be fully competent. Perfect. And of course, when you think about those things, you want to make sure you keep your breath moving. You know, one of the ways that we, as the opening slide that Yinka so brilliantly has put into every session we've done for some time now out of the book, is holding my breath is how I acquire a past about something. Holding my breath is how I keep nailing myself into old painful dynamics. So you want to liberate your breath, because the breath is the key to how mind energy moves in our structure. When there's something somebody doesn't want to look at, what do? They shut the breath down. If you allow yourself to become fully cognizant of your breath and keep your breath moving, especially when there's some sort of pain or turmoil or trauma going on, that movement of the breath is what allows the energy to surface. And if you're holding love present, when destructive energy surfaces, it dissolves, it disappears. So nice set of goals there, number 3A and B. Now, in order to facilitate healing, and this insight for me happened about 35 years ago, maybe a little longer than that now. I've probably been telling this story for 5 years, so it's probably more like 40 years, but some 35 or so years ago, I was doing an intensive at Heartland. We had a group of maybe 50 or so people, and there was one person who had a major upheaval and went through a major healing process and come out the other side, like on a scale of 1 to 10, this person was at a level 100 trauma. And on the other side of it, on a scale of 1 to 10, with sweetness and the presence of love, they were at a level 100 love. I mean, it was miraculous to watch. And as a facilitator, I'm standing there working to understand, to build the brain cells to understand what's going on here. What just happened? I mean, there are 50 other people in the room, and one person had this like, wow, miraculous result, and everybody else is kind of there. They're there, that's it. Why? What happened there? And what I was shown at that moment was that in order for healing to occur, two things have to happen simultaneously. One, the veil of the temple. You might remember in the ancient teachings, they said the veil of the temple must be rent in twain. Churches have made the veil of the temple a purple curtain in a church. It's not what it's about. The temple is your body-mind unit. The veil is the barrier between the subconscious and the unconscious mind. They said the veil of the temple must be rent in twain. That barrier has to be opened. That barrier is built by holding the breath. That barrier is opened by breathing. So what we want to do is get right as direct as we can, bring love present and active, and then we want to open that veil so that whatever's in hiding underneath comes forward in the presence of active love. When that occurs, whatever it is that's unlike love dissolves. It literally is transmuted energetically. Its form is changed. So the next step, we've got this set up now for the forgiveness process. The next step is to bring love present to your mind. So number 4, I choose love, my essence, which stirs the love in everyone involved. So what I'm doing at this point, you know, when I do this, I'll oftentimes go back to the moment where my daughter was being born, and I'll tap into that presence of love. And I'm going to step back into my essence as love. And what we recognize is that because we live in an energetic universe, if I can step into and hold to the presence of love, I am literally a vibrating energy field of love. And when that energy moves, everything else that is based in love around me has to move in love as well. You know, if you think about way back in physics class in high school, you took a middle C tuning fork, you hit it on a desk and it started to vibrate, and you put it in front of a second middle C tuning fork. What happened to the second tuning fork? Without being touched, it started to vibrate. That's the law of resonance. That's the law of energy exchange. Literally, when this first tuning fork is moving, if it comes into the field of a tuning fork of a similar frequency, then there's an automatic exchange of information. That's the law of resonance. Whenever two energy fields are in tune or in harmony with each other, there's an exchange of information between them. If I had 2 baby grand pianos and I opened the backs of the pianos and I came over to one of them and I banged out a middle C on that piano, and I went over to the other piano, there are hundreds of strings in that second piano, but the only ones that are going to be vibrating are the ones that relate to middle C. So resonance creates motion. When I choose to stand as a space of love, no matter how crazy somebody is around me, by holding to that presence of that energy, by keeping that tuning fork of love, so to speak, vibrating, it has to move in everything and everybody else around me. So when I choose love, it literally begins to wake up the love in everyone. Now, people may be resistant. It may be a long time before they choose to become aware of that love that's moving in them, but sooner or later, it's going to move. And then you'll see in brackets the rose and the butterfly story, one of my favorite old stories that comes from the very earliest days of doing this work. And let's imagine that we have a rose and a butterfly. We give them each an ego. They meet, they fall in love. They have this wonderful time together. And one day, the butterfly up and flies away. The rose, knowing that the love of the butterfly is the most important thing in its life, uproots itself to give chase. What's going to happen to the rose? It's going to die. Why does it die? Because it made something more important than being connected to our source. Whenever you or I make any goal more important than staying connected to the presence of love in us, we literally unplug, and by so doing, initiate our own death. Death is voluntary. It's self-induced. We do it to ourselves. So that's the rose and the butterfly story. And so we're at the stage now where we're going to step into the core of the forgiveness work. But before we do that, I want to just open the door and just see if anyone has a question relative to where we are in the worksheet, about what we're doing, not about your life. At this point, I don't have space. We're not going to start going off onto tangents of, oh, I have this issue with my grandmother or my son or that's not what I'm interested in. But if you have any germane questions to what we've covered so far in the worksheet, I'd like to hear them and we'll clear them up so we can go on to step 5. Does anyone have a question about the worksheet and the forgiveness process?
I've allowed people
Not
to
about your life, but about the worksheet.
I've allowed people to unmute for those that want to ask a question specific to the worksheet.
Go for it.
So we've got Corey.
And belonging to the beginning, whom do I blame? And I could not find the answer. The answer was no. There is nobody who is going to help me. Is it the nobody I?
That sounds like a worksheet where your answer in number 3 would be, I want someone to be there for me. I want someone to help me.
Yeah.
So I'd suggest that would be the worksheet you'd want to do. I'd take a worksheet right now, and in number 3, I'd put that in there. I want somebody to be there for me and help me.
Thank you. That's the answer. Thank you so much.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and then we've got Gina.
Anyone else, any questions about where we're going with this?
And Gina's next.
Yeah, hi, good evening, Michael. How are you?
Hey, young lady,
Hey, nice to see you again.
good to be seen.
I know, good to hear. The goal. Okay, have you put that earlier in the worksheet? I mean, I've not done this worksheet before, so I'm not too sure how this particular process works. But
Well, let's let go of past worksheets and just focus on this one. We want to stay with this one. We don't need to compare it. If you go to the website, there are many, many different worksheets. We've tried different things in it. Let's stay focused with this one and clear up any questions specifically about this worksheet.
Oh, right. Okay. So this particular goal that we've put early on is the goal that we're going to collapse, or we are in the process of collapsing. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, that's the one that Magda's going to collapse, the one she's talked about. If you're doing a worksheet along with her, then you'll work with the one that you put in number 3.
Yes. Yes.
And there are 2 levels of it. Notice there's what I want from whoever my object of attention is, and then there's why I want it, so that I can. So there are 2 levels of goals now in the worksheet.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. Anyone else?
And we've got Sasha.
Hi, Sasha.
Hello.
Welcome. How can we support you?
So in number, hold on. In number 4,
Okay,
it's like a statement, right?
correct.
So
Well, it's a statement and it's an action step. I'm choosing to
That's what
connect
I'm,
with love here.
yeah, I get the statement. So in that moment, you have to like go to that special time that we have that really good feeling and hold on to it. Is that what we're
Yes.
doing?
Well, not necessarily holding on to it from that time. Like when I shared about my daughter, I'm not going back and holding on to that, but I'm using that as a connecting point for me here now in the present to love.
To feel a moment that I felt good. I felt,
To really connect in with love. Yes.
okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Cool. And once again, to recognize that when you do that, energetically, when we realize we don't live in a material world, but an energetic world, by definition, energy is motion. And anything that moves sets up an energy wave. How powerful is that? Let me add a story that I oftentimes tell in step 4 in the worksheet. And it actually comes out of London, England. And it's a story, if you go online on eBay, or pardon me, on YouTube and do a search, you'll find a couple of videos about it. And it's a story about a lion. It's an actual true story about 2 young men who went to Harrods department store, and they had a cub lion for sale, and they bought it. They took it home and they raised it. until the lion got so big that they couldn't handle it anymore. They couldn't take care of it. The name of the lion is Christian. So if you do a search on YouTube and look for Christian the lion, you'll watch this story. And so this lion got so big they couldn't handle it. So they contacted a preserve in Africa, and they arranged, and they had the lion shipped to this preserve so it could run wild. Too big for them to take care of it anymore. Sometime later, I don't remember how many years it was, but it was years later, these two guys decided they wanted to go and visit their lion. So they contacted the preserve, and the preserves are like, no, you don't understand. This lion is a wild beast now. It is out there. Yes, it's tagged. We track it. We know where it is, but it's the head of its own pride. And if you found this lion, it would eat you. No, you can't do that. And they said, we want to come see our lion. So they fly to the preserve, and the preserve sets them up, and they send them out with a guard who's got a high power rifle, because they know they're going to have to kill this lion, because it's going to just mangle these two guys. So they know approximately where it is because it's tagged, and they go out, and here they are standing. There's a video of them, and I can remember the first time I saw the video, it was pretty shocking, because they're calling Christian, and all of a sudden the camera pans on a lion up the hill, starting to come down the hill, picking up, running a little faster. And I can remember in my mind, I'm thinking, I hope this is the right lion. And this lion just charges right up to these two like he's going to devour them, jumps up on them, literally like it's giving them a hug. I mean, this huge lion is up with its paws up around this guy's shoulder like he's giving it a hug. And he's just back and forth between these two guys like, oh my God, old friends, we haven't seen each other for so long. Pretty cool, pretty neat. But where to me, the really teaching part of this video when you watch it is that as this lion comes back and is very excitedly and delightedly for the three of them being reunited, the female, who's a totally wild lion, comes with him. Now, in the wild, the female lion is the huntrix. And this lion, this female, comes down with her mate, Christian, and instead of devouring these two human beings, goes over to them and rubs against them like a kitten would rub against your legs, and lets them pet her. Now, when you think of that in terms of energy, that's so profound. That the space was so safe and so connected to love between this lion and these two guys, like they're in their essence, that the female just walks in, is like a little pussycat, and lets them pet her. When I choose love, it literally, energetically moves love in everything and everyone around me. Powerful thing to recognize. And it's the key to all healing. So the objective of this step is to hold love present while I go into the action steps that follow in step 5. That makes sense for everybody? Any thoughts or questions?
Wait, I'll just let him wait a minute. Raise your hands if you want to ask.
Okay, if we're complete then, let's go on to number 5. So now what we're asking everybody to do is to hold to the presence of love in your mind and in your body right here, and hold that space for Magda as well as for whatever piece of work you're doing for yourself. So number 5A, and this is kind of a summary of the whole Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop in 5A. When upset, my perception, my mind's construct, is built out of corrupt data driven by my goal, number 3. By canceling that goal, the driver that selects the data that produces my reality, my errant perception, collapses. And I get to drop into the parts of my mind hidden from me by my pretense that others are responsible for what I've created again. Does that make sense to everybody? So when I'm upset, my mind, and I'm in blame, I project and I build a whole, literally a whole world that doesn't exist anywhere except the output of my mind. And my offering is that all realities based in pain are based in corrupt data. And so what I want to do is I want to access the root of the corrupt data and bring it forward to the presence of love for dissolution. And then there's another step here, or an insight in brackets at the end of that sentence. You'll see, if they're the one with the problem, why am I the one with the pain? Good question to ask yourself. You know, obviously, if I'm raging at them because of what they've done, they'd be the one with the pain if they were the one with the problem. If I'm the one with the pain, and I think they're the one with the problem, maybe I've got a problem and I don't know about it. So I want to uncover what my problem is, because I've noticed that I've been through this particular painful reality 87 different times with 42 different people, and I was the only one that was there every time. Maybe this is about me. Maybe I get to clean up this part of my mind. So then comes the action step in number 5. While holding love conscious, active, and present, and you'll see the words Rachma in brackets there, and down below you'll see a definition of Rachma. The way to hold love present, the gateway to bring active present love into the human form in the ancient Aramaic language was called Rachma. It's a filter in the frontal lobes of the brain that is a gateway that brings love into form, and it keeps my mind keyed to the presence of love. So while holding love conscious, active, and present, I now choose to collapse my mind's lies by willingly canceling my goal, that driver in my mind, for number 1, C2. So now I bring my answer from number 3, exactly as I wrote it in number 3. I bring it down to number 5A. So that first blank. So what's my goal? So I bring that down to number 5. And then, so the first action step is bring love present. Next action step is cancel the goal. So you bring the goal from number 3A down to this blank in number 5, and you cancel your need for it. Now, many people say, well, wait a minute, Michael, now that was a perfectly good goal. All I wanted was, to have confidence. I mean, what's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that. That's a goal. Most goals that people put in that space, everybody should have for everybody in the world and for themselves, with no question. It's not that there's ever anything wrong with the goal or a problem with the goal. The problem is when I recognize that if I put that goal into my mind uses corrupt data to build the world I see, to build my perceptual constructs. So it's never that there's a problem with the goal. It's that when I load it into my mind, it causes my mind to use corrupt data to literally produce what I think I see out there in the world. So in the Aramaic language, the word that's been translated as forgive is shabag or shabak, and it means to cancel. What do you cancel? Well, people are doing their behaviors. Can I change them? Maybe, maybe not, but not very reliably. If you've ever tried, you know how futile that can be. What at any given situation can I cancel? I can always cancel the goal that's driving my perception. And if my perception is using corrupt data, then when I cancel that goal, my perception collapses. When it collapses in on itself. It collapses in on the root of what needs to be dealt with in me. And so that's the objective here with number 5. So once again, action step. While holding love conscious, active, and present, I now choose to collapse my mind's lies by willingly canceling my goal, the driver for number 1, C2. So I bring my answer from number 3A down to this first blank in number 5. And Magda, as you do that, how do you feel? What happens?
I don't know. For some reason, I feel a bit more empowered.
Okay, good. So the reason you feel a bit more empowered is by canceling that goal. And oftentimes the mind will jump right back in with its old trauma, but even a split second when your perceptual construct collapses and the underlying data is exposed to love, there's an automatic transmutation of that underlying pain and trauma. Whatever the source of that energy is, begins to dissolve in you. And that's where that empowerment, feeling of empowerment comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we may have to do this particular forgiveness process, especially around with such a big issue for you, especially in this case. You may do this worksheet many, 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 many times, because each time you do it, you'll do it from a stronger, more empowered place, and you'll be able to bring more and more and more of the underlying pained perception to the surface. So you may, do 10 worksheets where you touch in and you move through that, you get to a more empowered place, and you get the insight that your parents were doing the best they could do, which you said earlier. But, oftentimes this idea, well, everybody's doing the best they can do, is used as a spiritual bypass, a way not to deal with things. Well, I don't have to deal with this trauma in me because they were just doing the best they, well, no, you got trauma in you. You need to work on it. You need to clean it up. And when you clean it up, when you've cleaned it up and you come to the place where you go, oh, and they were doing the best they could do. Now it's not a spiritual bypass anymore. It's just the truth. I mean, it was the truth before, but if I use it as a way to avoid dealing with what's in me, I'm going to hold on to what's in me. And so I want to peel these layers off. And so that's the first layer of this one. And then there's number 5B, or pardon me, the second canceling process, where you bring your answer from number 3, where I want to have complete confidence. You bring that down and you cancel that goal. And breathe. And so everybody, you brought the first goal from number 3A down into the blank and canceled it. And now you want to bring the goal from number 3B down to the blank and cancel it. And what happens when you do that, Magda?
I apologize, Michael. Can you repeat that? I didn't hear
Sure.
quite well.
Yeah. How do you feel as you cancel that 3B, that goal, to be fully competent? What happens for you?
I feel a bit free.
Okay, good. So that's a result of allowing whatever's under the surface to come to the surface in the presence of love. And each time you do that, again, if it's one of those issues that I may do many worksheets around it, a little more comes up, a little more of what I need to deal with comes up until I'm completely finished with that issue. Now, then there's a second step. Once you've canceled the goal, you've created a space for the underlying dynamic that needs to be healed to come forward in the presence of love. But if you think about that Harvard research that we talked about earlier, where they said that in a time frame where they can measure 10,000 units of electrical activity happening in the brain, and only 9 bits go into conscious awareness, our perceptual constructs. If you think of that kind of metaphorically, as so here I am, conscious mind is 9 bits. I've got a 9-bit processor, and I've got 10,000 units of information moving in me, and I've got an issue that's maybe been going on in my bloodline for 100 generations. Am I going to be done with that in the next 2 minutes? Am I ever going to be able to process that in my little 9-bit processor? Not likely, not probably. So in 5B, here's where you ask for help. In the ancient Aramaic language, there was a power in us that was referred to, and you'll see it there, Aramaic, Ruka Dekucha, was referred to as Ruka Dekucha. I don't say that very well in terms of the Aramaic language. It's kind of one of those words that your mother told you not to use because you spit on people. It's really guttural, like rucha, that sort of a sound. But in Aramaic, it is literally a feminine elemental force in us that, when invited into activity, undoes the effects of our errors and teaches us the truth. In our modern computer language, we could say it's like the super processor. So here we are with this 9-bit processor trying to work through generations of information, like good luck. Well, inside of us, there's a super processor that, if we invite it into activity, will change everything. Everything to the degree that we're willing to have it changed. We have free will. That power is never going to impinge on our free will. That power has to be invited in to do it. So in 5B, that's where we suggest that you make several requests of that power. And here's our list. So I invite, and you notice there's a blank there. Some people call it the higher power. The words from the ancient Aramaic in modern Greek-oriented society were translated as the Holy Spirit. There's nothing there about a disembodied spirit being. It's got nothing to do with theology. It's just talking about the fact that there is in us an elemental force that, if we invite it into activity, it will start to transmute and change everything. It's there for us, but we have to invite it. So there are several things we suggest you invite that power to do. You know, in AA, it's been called the higher power. It's been called the superconscious, the subconscious, the primordial X. Whatever words fit for you, I always usually just fill that blank in with a short form of Ruka. So what am I going to ask this power to do? Number one, I'm going to ask this power to incline me toward healing. You know, I may not necessarily be in touch with the root of what inclines me towards specific things. If, let's say, my bloodline has been inclined when they're under stress to go into hostility, then I might find myself inclined to go into hostility instead of healing. So I'm asking this power to change my root inclination. So I'm asking it to incline me toward healing, to restore me to my newborn essence love, to heal my denial, and to heal my capacity to generate my emotion, number 1B. Whatever you wrote up at the top of the page in number 1B, you want to bring it down here, and you're asking to be literally to have the ability to even produce that in you removed. And then we suggest you go on from there. You're asking this power, help me to open a direct, conscious relationship with and gently remove the denied, dissociated, projected parts of my mind. So I'm asking this power to go to work in me and remove whatever I've been hiding from myself. So how about doing that step now? Everyone go ahead. So I invite Ruka Dekucha, and then go through those steps in the context of whatever worksheet you're doing personally. And of course, breathe. And so, Magda, what's happening for you?
So for me at 1B, I have, well, I identify 4 emotions, to be honest.
Well, remember, we just want to do one, the one we selected, do a different worksheet for the others.
Let's go with fear then.
Okay. So as you breathe and tap into that, how does that feel?
I couldn't feel much difference.
Okay. Well, just be with it and let it move. And then number 1C, one of the habits of the mind, once it's got an habitual way of perceiving something in the world, And if it's something that's gone on for decades in someone's life, which most issues when people start to face them, they've been going on for a long time. The mind, even if you work through a specific situation, will tend to want to hold on, not that it really wants to, but it's been structured to hold on to that pattern and keep using it as a filter through which to see life. So number 5C is I cancel my need to be right and to make up another story out of my hidden corrupt data, to hallucinate proof that my fear and hostility-based story, my reality, is true. So I'm just canceling any goal to keep seeing life this way. And as you do those 3 steps, number 5A, B, and C, then I want to breathe and just soften. So with all that moving, all that in awareness, just let yourself breathe into that and notice any places in your structure that are tight, and just let them soften and open. And then number 6, how do you feel? You know, up in number 1B, you express some feelings. How do you feel now? And then in number 6B, about number 1, I can see that. So in number 6 now, what I want to do is go back and look over number 1A, B, C, and D, E. And how does that whole situation look to me now? Does it look the same? Or is there some change in the way I see it? So in number 6, Magda, how do you feel?
At peace, I would say.
Awesome, nice. And then if you look at the whole situation, number 1, what's your mind's construct? What's your perception of it now?
You know, I could not say that like you said, that there needs to be, I need to work on it a few times, but I think it's more awareness, being more aware of what I'm thinking and what this can intensify my emotions.
Mm-hmm. So there's a new level of awareness.
Yeah.
And would that awareness be about your part in it, or is there anything specific to that?
So it can be about
So you're saying that you're seeing more clearly that it's about you, it's not about what's outside of you?
Oh yeah, definitely it's about me. That's 100% about me.
Okay, good. All right, so fill that in number 6B. And then number 7, now that I've canceled a goal that I had for, in this case, you're doing the worksheet on yourself, but if it's for yourself or for someone else, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a goal toward whoever I'm doing the worksheet on. So this is going to be a goal that you set for you toward you. If you were doing it, if someone was doing this worksheet on someone else, what's a new goal based in love that you're willing to set toward them and then take action on? So number 7A, a principle of the universe is that by giving, I first get the original. I'm grateful for this opportunity to heal. I choose truth and perfect love. And actually, I'm seeing there's a typo in number 7. That A shouldn't be there. So recognizing this principle of the universe, that what I give, I get the original. The energy goes through me first. I say I'm interacting with someone and they do something that's really just, terrible, disgusting. And I go, man, they deserve my rage. I should just blast them with it. Okay. So, I saw them do what you said they did, and it was terrible. And no question, they deserve your rage. But in order for you to do rage, you've got to put it into your field first. The real question is, do you deserve it? And if you don't deserve it, don't do it to them, because you always are going to get the original, whatever it is. So number 1C, so you'd bring your own name, Magda, down from number 1 here. If someone is doing a worksheet on Harry or Bill or Mary, then you'd bring down Harry, Bill, or Mary into this second part of number 7. Number 1C, based on number 3. So looking back at the issue involved, I structure a loving goal toward you and offer you. So in this case, Magda, back at number 1, what you were offering yourself was kind of a insecurity, pointing negative thoughts at yourself. What would be a goal that you'd be willing to set toward yourself and live up to for yourself from here on in?
Don't know, I think be brave, be confident, be positive, most of all. Think at the positive side rather than putting the bad in front of it, seeing the outcome before it happens, I guess.
Okay, so see the end from the beginning, see the outcome. And
Yeah.
what would be the most important outcome in the context of this worksheet? It sounds to me like the most important outcome would be that wherever you find yourself, whatever is coming up for you, that if you're committed to being a space of love for yourself, or holding to the presence of love for you, that would be one of the most powerful gifts you could give yourself.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a powerful gift to give to anybody, but in this case, to really, if this insecurity comes up, especially in professional situations, to really stop, check out of, cancel any goals that are keeping that negative aspect going, and go back to that commitment to yourself of holding to that space of active love and connecting to that space. So why don't you go ahead and write in your goal, what you're now going to do toward yourself, especially when you're under stress. And then what you want to do is breathe. You know, that checkbox at the end of the sentence, breathe, be love, cleanse, and bathe in oxygen. Breathing means you're taking in lots of oxygen, nice deep breaths. You're bringing lots of oxygen into your own structure, and just imagine and visualize yourself being able to be totally bathed in oxygen. And what this helps to do is to open microcirculation, which are, capillaries or blood vessels that are about 1/10 or less the thickness of a hair. And so as you breathe in this oxygen, you want to see that microcirculation opening and delivering that oxygen to every cell throughout your structure. Vital oxygen nutrition to the cells, removing wastes, and bathing yourself in that presence of love. So how do you feel, young lady?
Relief, I would say. Relieved and positive.
Nice. Well, that was a courageous worksheet to share, to look at yourself that way and to share it with us. We appreciate you trusting us to share that. And we're here to hold the space of active love for you for every layer of that you're ever going to need to work through.
Thank you.
You're most welcome and deserving. So if anyone has, many of you have been doing different forms of the worksheet. I would love any feedback that you have on it. And or if you've got an experience to share from doing the worksheet now with us today. If you want to put your hand up, or if there are any questions about it, be happy to entertain them and do my best to answer them. Again, questions about the worksheet itself, not your own individual personal process, but about the worksheet? Anyone have anything to share about what happened for you as you did this worksheet? Anything you notice about it, the difference between this and the one we've been doing, the ones, you've done a couple of different ones previously? Or any questions?
We've got Corey.
Corey, you've got a hand up?
What I see now is the love. When we made that sentence about giving love to the feelings, also the negative feelings like anger or and all these things, feeling like I cannot do it, or so to give love to it, that made a real, I understood that it is a good way to go with that in a good direction. And the second thing is the end, that my new goal is also has to do with love, to give love to myself when I am in that difficult situation, which I did not do before.
Nice. Well, that's going to change your life. Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Honored, delighted, glad to share it with you. The underlying objective of this process is to allow yourself to tap into the truth of who you are, which is love, and to bring that love present. And here's what's there's a law of the universe. I'll get with you in a second, Janet. There's a law of the universe. It sounds kind of strange when you first hear it, but it's called the perpetual transmutation of radiant energy. Perpetual, of course, meaning eternal. Transmutation meaning change. Radiant energy being energy that's in motion. So we plant a seed in the ground, and there are energies in the soil. There are microorganisms, there are minerals, there's water, and then there's sunshine that when the rays of the sun hit the earth, there's a transmutation of energy. That energy, if you just put your hand in front of a sunbeam, it's just a sunbeam. But when it hits the earth, it's transmuted into heat and it warms the soil. And when the sprout starts to come through the soil and hits the leaves, which are white when they first come through, all of a sudden there's another transmutation. The sun hits those leaves and the sun's energy is transmuted and it is taken in as food for the plant, turns to chlorophyll. So it's a change of energy. It's a transmutation. Whatever I hold that is corrupt data, whatever energy is in me that doesn't belong in me, if I can bring it forward to the presence of love, there is a transmutation. Its form is changed. Its corrupt nature is undone, and it's transmuted by the presence of active love. That's the power of you as a human being, to do that for yourself and for each other. That's a gift we were given. The trick is, we all come in as the presence of love, that newborn energy. We all come in the same way. And we live in a culture that specializes in slapping it out of us and then sending us out into the world to find somebody to love, or to find somebody to love us, as though love is something we could do or something we could give or something we could get from someone else. And now people do this false pursuit. They're looking, you might remember that song a few years ago, looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love in too many faces. You're never going to find it in somebody else's face. It's what you are. And this practice is about bringing what you are forward in the presence of whatever's happened in your life, whatever's happened in your bloodline. And it doesn't matter how dastardly it was, if you can bring it forward in the presence of love, it will be transmuted. And you'll be done with it. And that's called being a good ancestor. One of my favorite statements from Jonas Salk, the inventor of the Salk vaccine. The most important thing you can be is a good ancestor. Good ancestors face what's in their bloodline, face what's in their genes, face what's in their structure, and transmutes it with the presence of love into healing. And that's what we're here to support you in doing. So thank you for allowing me to share it.
Carol's wrote she's had to go, but she's put, I found adding 3B very powerful, felt a shift as it helped gain clarity.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, it is a good piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
We've had it in other worksheets in the past, but I've never integrated it into the main worksheet. I think this is going to become our new main worksheet. I just started reworking it. This was just, a week or 10 days ago, and it's had a few changes since. If you look at the worksheet as it is now, it's something, the first one I did was probably, I don't know, 43 or 44 years ago, and the version you're looking at is probably version, I don't know, 3,444, something like that. And it's actually been through 3 different renditions or changes in the last week or 10 days. So we're getting close to it becoming a new final worksheet for us. So delighted that you're here to share it.
Someone's asked, would you please repeat what you said regarding love is what you are? Bring it forward to whatever ?
Okay. So if you hold a newborn child and you tap into that newborn, this is a question that Jeannie, my wife, or I have asked of tens of thousands of people all over the globe and all kinds of different cultures. And if people really tap into the essence of the newborn, everybody is in agreement that the newborn is the presence of love. When people tap in and say, oh, the newborn is love, then I ask them, well, is the newborn loving you, or is the newborn love? And it gets really clear the newborn isn't loving you. It gets really clear that the newborn is the actual literal presence of love. And so the objective of these sections, step 4 especially, is to bring your essence as love forward into your physiology. And when love is conscious, active, and present in you, it's like sunshine shining on the soil. There's a transmutation of energy. It changes what it touches. So if there is anything in you or in your genes, in your whole bloodline, that's based in some form of hostility or fear that keeps coming up and inserting itself into your perceptual constructs, if you can bring that forward directly in the presence of active love, then that whatever is corrupt about that energy in you is transmuted and healed. Does that get to the question? Is that what you were asking?
Yes, thank you.
Sweet. Anybody else with a thought or a question for us? An experience to share of what happened with you when you did your worksheet?
We got Gina.
Gina, young lady.
There you go, Gina.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Hi. First of all, I just want to express gratitude for making your work available, being here tonight, and giving me, or all of us, the opportunity to heal. I certainly feel at the end of that process, as I do when I do my worksheets, a lot of peace around the situation. My question is, yeah, thank you. Yeah, my question, and it's wonderful. And my question is, is it possible to heal an issue in one worksheet?
Absolutely, 2000%. And, you know, one of the things that the ego mind wants is instant results. And with enough willingness, absolutely, you can get instant results. But my experience is for most people that before they get the instant results, the law of what I call the 3 Ps applies. To get to the instant result, you have to practice, practice, practice. And then the instant result happens. You know, I used to own a recording studio in Nashville, Tennessee. And the studio that I owned was the studio that before Willie Nelson went with, I believe it was RCA, whoever Willie Nelson went with. He used to record at our studio. And a lot of people think of Willie Nelson as this instant overnight success. Few people realize that Willie Nelson lived in his car on the streets of Nashville for some 17 years before he got his big opening and his big break.
Wow.
So some people think, oh, this instant success. Well, Willie worked at it for a long time to earn his success. I actually, and I wish I'd kept one of these pictures. I had some pictures in our file cabinet. I remember we had 3 copies of it. And, you know, it just never occurred to me to keep one. But here's Willie Nelson in a white shirt, collared white shirt, a little skinny little black tie, and a suit jacket. That picture would be worth a fortune today. I wish I had one, but this goes back into, geez, this is 45, 46 years ago.
And what was that comment you made about, well, I found one thing, I felt you went through a couple of the slides a bit quickly. I didn't quite copy everything down. I don't know if you.
Well, it's all in the worksheet. If you just download the worksheet, you've got every word of it.
Yeah, now what was I going to ask you? Yeah, what was that comment you made about being a good ancestor? You quoted some. Who did you quote?
Yeah. I was quoting Jonas Salk, S-A-L-K, the inventor of the Salk vaccine.
Yeah, what is the Salk vaccine?
Well, it's a polio vaccine. You know, back years ago when polio was making the rounds with kids, it was Jonas Salk that invented the vaccine that helped to eradicate polio. So one of the things that Jonas Salk said as a healer was the most important thing to be is a good ancestor. So that's what I was quoting, was Jonas Salk.
And okay, what did he mean by that?
Well, what do you think? Do your work. You clean up your mind, and your kids and their kids and their kids and their kids don't have to deal with the crap that you carried into the world.
Is that
if
what
your
he was
parents
saying?
had dealt with theirs, then you wouldn't be dealing with what you're dealing with today. And if their parents had dealt with theirs, so be a good ancestor, step up to the plate and clean up your mind, clean up your genes.
Yeah, I get that from our point of view, if you like. But is that what Salk was saying, really? But yeah, I'll leave it.
That would be my take. That would be my take. Yeah. Be a good ancestor. Clean up your mind.
Thank you again.
Delighted, honored. Thank you. Well, anyone else, anything to share? Questions, thoughts, answers, ideas? Miss Yinka, any thoughts for you, young lady?
I think that's it for everybody. What I found really helpful, because today I did one on one of my friends today, and they did it on something really small, like an incident that had happened when they were a kid, but it opened up something massive for them. So I would hugely recommend doing it on the small stuff, because often it's the small stuff that we don't think is very big.
Yes.
And she saw how it's dictated her whole life, that one small incident.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really important. And especially if you're starting out with the process, a lot of people like, oh yeah, I have this big giant issue in my life. I'm going to fix that today. No, you're not. This is a skill that you acquire through practice. You don't start with the big stuff. Start with small little irritations and upset and build the brain cells for how to do the forgiveness process. And then you'll be strengthened and empowered to go after the really big generational issues that all of us carry around, that all of us need to be healing.
Oh, I've got one question actually. Do you change the worksheet depending on what the issue is, or do you just stick to one?
You know, one of the feedback we've gotten from people over the years, like I don't even know how many different editions of the worksheet are on the website. There are several, and they've all got different things in it. You know, over the years we've tried different things, and what I've done is taken that which I found to be most teachable and keep it in the worksheet. So there's some ideas that, you know, we've dropped along the way. I mean, if we put every idea in that I've tried in the worksheet over the last 40 plus years, the worksheet would probably be 10 pages long. So you can go to the website, and there's several different versions. And what people have shared with me, I haven't done this particularly. I've got the one that's in front of me, and that's what I do. And it's usually the most current one that I use myself personally. But what people have fed back to me is that they'd like to change them up every once in a while, to do a different version, because they get a little different slant on the process and get a little different, they see themselves with different opportunities by using the different worksheets. So that's my take on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And deserving.
I think that's it for the questions. So thank you, Michael, and thank you for everyone that's joined today and made this group what it is today.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. Blessings.
So what I'll leave.
We're not going to be doing a session the fourth
yes,
Thursday this month because you're going to be on vacation, right?
Yes.
So that means I will be too.
Yeah.
And we hold the space for you to have an awesome time with yourself.
Yeah, I'm going to do Go Within.
Right. And are we going to see you Saturday morning for Still Point Breathing?
Yes, it's this Saturday.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We'll look forward. Oh, just to mention, you know, last week, now that Julie is in Spain and you're there, what we've done is, instead of doing the second session in the Mind Shifter Still Point Breathing Club on Tuesday night, because it's so late for you guys, what we've done is we've changed it. So we're going to do the first session, as we always do, 11 o'clock Eastern time for the Saturday Still Point Breathing. And then on Sunday, we're going to do the processing session at the same time, 11 o'clock Eastern time. Right. So that it's early enough for you guys to be, you know, you don't have to be up at 3 a.m. to do it. Okay. So we'll change that starting this weekend.
Right.
Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. If anybody wants to breathe with us, drop Jeannie an email and let her know if you'd like to join the Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing Club. It meets once a month, the second Saturday of the month and the second Sunday of the month at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And if you wanted to be part of that, you could drop Jeannie a note. You could go to whyagain.org under events, and you'll see the descriptor of that workshop, or that club, so to speak. It's a yearly process, or you can do just one session or sign up for 3 or whatever. But if you're interested in doing that, you could drop Jeannie an email, JEANIE at whyagain.org, Jeannie at whyagain.org, and leave us a way to contact you. And if you want to join us, we'll get you set up. We'll get Mind Shifter sent to you, and we'll be rock and roll. So thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Blessings. All right. Thanks, Magda, for your courage.
Thank you. Thank you for your help.
What I'm going to do is put the focus mode on and just leave a bit of music to end. So when it's on YouTube, it's got a bit of music on there for the end of it, so people can log off as and when you want to log off.
All right. Blessings. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. So just as you're listening to the music, just take a moment to breathe.